didn't think that privacy would ever become a mainstream issue in India for netizens, but fortunately for us, there have been huge developments.
As people across Asia become more tech-savvy and more tech-dependent, they are increasingly aware of the importance of protecting their privacy. In many Asian countries, government surveillance is extensive, legal safeguards are minimal, and there are few restrictions on companies collecting and storing data for commercial purposes. Under these circumstances, the right to privacy can no longer be considered a Western luxury.
And what we've seen in the last 2 years, almost ever since we started working with Privacy International, is a sea change in people's attitude. And there is draft bills that parliamentary committees are working on, and overall both the media and citizens are much more concerned about privacy than they were just 2 years ago.
I think we found through all the state workshops that we did is people were really concerned about privacy as a human right, and they talked a lot about it being a right for the poor, which you don't really hear about in the United States. We'll have conferences and the dialogue will be just really simple of, what is my personal data, and then we'll have conferences that are really a high level conversation.
The purpose of the conclave and the symposium was to build connections with a larger network of people that had experience or expertise in this area. At one level, it is a networking exercise, and at another level, it is a very complicated peer review exercise.
India, like the rest of the world, is answering some fundamental questions about powers of the government, citizens' rights, and complications that arise from emerging technologies.
That the UID allows you to collect all kinds of data about people that have nothing to do with public domain, public good, public, the use of public resources, and that kind of information, to me, in the hands of the powerful is very dangerous.
Nikhil makes 2 points. One, that it's more important for the state to be transparent to the citizen than for the citizen to be transparent to the state.
A core component of a privacy law is the subject's right of access. That is, you as an individual have the right to demand from an agency or from a company what information they hold on you. It's one of the most powerful components of a privacy law.
Maybe a year ago, both the Mumbai police and the Delhi police have started using social media very aggressively. And they encourage citizens to take photographs of those engaged in traffic violations and upload them to the Facebook group.
And they found that actually people who are posting their information was very, very comfortable in doing it. But here is the population which was not comfortable, which is actually the police themselves.
There are instances where even panchayat members have actually threatened persons who have taken up RTI cases. They're being threatened to be ostracized from the community. And ostracization is a huge social stigma because you stay close to your clan, and therein lies your identity.
I find it really frightening because it's going to be the biggest biometric database in the world, and I think what's problematic about it is also that it's been done so quickly without much thought about whether the technology will work, whether the adequate security safeguards are in place, but also it's functioning in a vacuum because we don't have data protection and privacy laws of a strength or a quality that will handle something like this. The way that they've architected the system includes so many points of fraud, of abuse, and without a robust data protection or privacy legislation in place, you don't really have a leg to stand on in terms of fighting abuse. But the problem is that when you're dealing with banks, insurance companies, retailers, post offices, and a whole bunch of other people at the city and village level who will actually be points of entry into the system where people can go and register. So for example, you go to your bank to open a bank account, and the bank will not give you one until you have a UID number. So they'll say, oh, but you can register here, and take your iris scans, take your fingerprints, take all your demographic details, and allow you to apply for an ID card number there. And the whole system by which they then transmit that data to the central database, and whether they're even required to delete it off their systems, whether they can use it in any other manner, whether they can share it, is completely silent under the law. What problem are we trying to fix isn't very clear. And we're given all kinds of answers about everything from national security to e-governance to efficiency to anti-terrorism to all sorts of things. So it's supposed to be a silver bullet to every single problem. But in looking at it as purely a technology problem with a technology solution, I think you ignore a lot of the socio-economic, political, ethical, cultural concerns that something like identity is very big on.
As I said, it isn't all because of the UID. The leaking of the Ratan Tata Radhya tapes was critical because we had the richest man in the country ask that his right to privacy be protected. This made national news, and there are all sorts of other smaller developments, such as the pervasive use of CCTV cameras in public spaces, in hotels, restaurants, shops, etc., without any executive order or law, that has caused an overall improvement in privacy awareness. And the press across the country then began to uncover the use of off-the-air interception devices for the purposes of industrial espionage, by private detective agencies interested in your love life, by local police authorities. So then these details began to be made more explicit. But still, I wouldn't say that the average telephone user in the country is aware that his phone lines are being tapped. I don't think, given our scale, the billion-person scale, even these 1,400 devices make much of a difference. The Indian government, as far as I know, has not installed a single BlackBerry enterprise server. They use the individual service, or BIS, and therefore their data traffic is routed through network operating centers either in Canada or other parts of the world. And Canadian intelligence could use either legal interception or illegal interception to listen in on data traffic of Indian politicians. So that's the anxiety that the politicians are articulating these days, and that is why they want the network operating center to be shifted into India.
And mainly we are looking after the privacy issue. So working on privacy issues that actually covers a lot of many other issues, interrelated issues. One of the sort of issues is like the mobile SIM registration, which we will look into as well. We don't feel any justification to provide fingerprint for a SIM card, or to provide every information of a family members, even what is your father's name, mother's name, what is your religion. The mobile phone companies have a sort of policy that the information they take from the customer, they will not disclose this openly, but it is they gave it to the government, and government asks them information, and maybe for their registration purpose, for their licensing purpose, they give it to government. but also they gave it to the third-party corporate houses, the business houses, which we feel like that this is the breach of privacy. When you block something, it means you do regular surveillance, right? And then it appears to you, and then you block. So on the question of surveillance, which is also interrelated with privacy issues, we have the Telecommunication Policy and Telecommunication Act, which was amended in 2006 with a big push from the intelligence agencies and army to the regulatory commission, and there was a privacy clause, and that clause was deleted, and then the mobile taping was justified on the security ground. The privacy is the sort of one of the core rights, and then when you deleted the privacy, which in our constitution that says that talks about privacy in Article 43, and then you prepare some law which is actually goes against the constitution, even that law is functional. In fact, any law against the constitution should not be termed as a law, because anything you formulate, you make any law should not go against constitution. But it goes against constitution, and there was a writ petition which is still unresolved. So it means actually, it indicates that there are a lot of restrictions on the online communications.